r/ask Reddit. 911 operators of Reddit. What is the stupidest reason that someone has ever called? July 1996, a dust storm blew in, and at least 20 people called 911 to report aliens. Yes, the dust storm did look exactly like the one in the movie Independence Day that was just released. No, aliens were not invading. No, aliens were not invading. That's just what an alien would say. Dun dun dun. If the aliens really were invading, what could the police really do? In the films, die tragically, or more often stupidly, trying to fight a technologically superior and remorseless opponent. In all seriousness, coordinate evacuation efforts, mitigate the ensuing chaos, try and save as many people as they can, though that will also likely involve someone dying in the line of duty. If escape is impossible, begin guerrilla warfare against the alien threat. Try and cripple them however and whenever possible. Ideally. Yet, humans are jerks to each other more times than not, especially when they have the illusion of power backing them up. But give us a common enemy and we're a force to be reckoned with. Give us a common enemy and we're a force to be reckoned with. After the pandemic, I'm not so sure about that. Firefighter here. Here are a few actual calls we have been started to. Popcorn in the eye. Ghost in the attic. Possible smoke in the house. Turns out the caller was crying, which made things blurry, so they thought it was smoke. Adult with leg stuck in laundry chute. Caller dropped a cigarette on the garage floor and didn't know what to do. Fried chicken was too dry. Leg through the floor while on the toilet. As a person who has fallen through a floor before. Yeah, it's kinda embarrassing when you guys had to fish me out. No way for me to get out and they had to cut the floor and pull me out, lol. Bad times, but good memories. Okay, this alone leaves me with so many questions. How? Hut up. It was a dark stormy day, the birds. Okay, no, seriously though. Piece of it, old home. 3 stories up and we were replacing the old rotten floor. I fell through above the stairs and got my waist stuck. Unable to move my hips and legs out even with help, we decided to call non-emergency. Also not wanting to risk me falling, they strapped me in. Good times. I would consider that a legit emergency and an interesting call as a firefighter. That and the key part about calling dispatch non-emergency. Perfectly legit call for assistance. Police dispatch in the UK. Had someone call in because 2 squirrels were fighting in her back garden. No, we don't arrest squirrels. On a similar vein, had a recent immigrant call. Had a strange and deadly creature in the back garden. On arrival, turns out to be a hedgehog. Also had woman hysterically call in about a snake in her toilet. Turned out to be Big Pooh. Imagine being dispatched to someone's house and having to say, lady, that's a turd. I won't trust you until you prove it. Slay the beast. Bring the knife. The poop knife? Your girlfriend is using it to open an Amazon box right now. I kind of love the idea of someone from like the deserts of Arabia or something seeing a hedgehog snuffling around and saying, oh my god, what is that terrifying spiky monster? It's made of knives. That can't be legal. Here in the UK, someone called the emergency services because he couldn't find the TV remote. Important question. What show was on? I don't know why, but I'm imagining a boomer missing out on a British cooking show. Hey, Bake Off is a good show. When I was 3 years old, my dad said I could do anything I wanted for my birthday. I took it literally and called 911. Not related to 911 at all, but when I was little as well, around 6, my dad said that any money I found on the floor was mine to keep. So what did I do? I said, okay, walked to his bedroom, grabbed his pants, shook them out, then grabbed his wallet. He thought I'd grab whatever change I found. Not his freaking wallet. LMAO. Not an operator, but back when I was 20, I was at a party where a girl called 911. I went with my roommate to this party and we both crashed there. At the end of the night, he realized he forgot his contact lenses case at home, so he took a shot glass, filled it with water and put his contacts in. A few minutes later, the girl came into the room and saw the shot glass and downed it thinking it was vodka. When my roommate woke up and told he what she did, she got all panicked and called 911. I passed out before they arrived, so I'm not sure what happened. Was it water or contact solution? Water is definitely not good to soak contacts in. It contains bacteria and microorganisms that could multiply on the lens and lead to eye infections. She did him a favor, to be quite honest, lol. If I recall correctly, it was water. He wasn't the brightest person. I've had to do that before and you're definitely right. But if his contacts were anything like mine, they dry out and glue to your eye if you sleep in them. So you need to take them out before sleeping and put them in something. Definitely not ideal, but being able to see the next day is pretty important. Hud up. I drank someone's contacts once. We were sharing a hotel out of town and I woke up in the middle of the night for water like I always do, and they had used my cup to store them overnight. Not really my fault, but I sure felt stupid the next morning. Paramedic here. At the height of lockdown in the UK, I was sent to a lady who called for an emergency ambulance as her drive was too high. Also on my list of stupid calls, guy in his late 30s who burnt his tongue on a baked potato. Someone who has had pain in their knee for 30 years decided at 3 AM that this was the time to get it sorted. A man in his 40s who had a nightmare. A guy who thought he might feel unwell later. Man who scratched his testicle in the night with his long fingernail. No blood. Drive was too high. Guess she was hoping for a studly paramedic visit. Step paramedic, what are you doing? Honestly, it's hard to pick. We get silly calls every day that tie up our lines because people think a personal emergency or inconvenience is a life-death emergency. Here are a few recent ones. Mum turned off the internet because he was failing math class. Wanted us to force mum to turn in the internet. Neighbor's porch light was green and it was not a holiday and they thought this should be illegal. The hooker he didn't pay stole his crackers payment and he wanted to report the theft. There was a burro, wild donkey, in their campsite in the desert and wanted someone to remove it. They ran out of gas on the highway and didn't want to pay the fee to their insurance. Tow truck wanted us to tell the tow truck to gas them up for free. Neighbor was parked crooked in their own driveway and caller wanted them ticketed for unsightly parking. Of course, the classic McDonald's is out of chicken nuggets type calls. I knew a woman who was a drug dealer. She was a friend of some friends. Not my sort of person to hang around. One day she decided to rob another drug dealer, who then went to the police to report the robbery. They both ended up in jail. They ran out of gas on the highway. That is a life-death emergency, but they called the wrong number. Even worse is that they called for fuel and not the fact they were stopped on a highway. Crazy. I saw on a TV program a woman who stopped on the side of a British motorway because of a minor car problem. Ended up being totaled by lorry driver. It's no joke, and something like 40 deaths happen a year because of it. Sounds like whoever called about that needs to take a driving safety awareness course. I work in the ER, so I'm on the receiving end of some dumb 911 calls. Most recent was a guy who shows up via ambulance at 1 AM because he twisted his ankle 3 days ago and it still hurts. The medic who brought him in was not amused. Ambulance? I'm guessing you live in the US if the number is 911. But are you telling me this guy wasted like $2,000 for a twisted ankle? Plot twist. He's not gonna pay for it. Canada also uses 911. Our ambulances are like $350-500 depending on where you are. So either way he wasted at least a few hundred. I was the one who had to call 911 for this, but close enough for edit. I was working with an idiot who one day took note that if he shot his steel toe boot on the steel toe with a nail gun, that said nail would curve around the steel toe. And this worked out for him for a while till that pesky erosion and metal fatigue thing happened and the nail went through and nailed his foot to a door frame. So being the youngest person on the crew, I got picked to make the call, and that was when I found out that there is no way to express the stupidity such as that without sounding like you are making it up. They did send an ambulance and a few officers, and at first they thought we might have done it to him. But after they did an investigation and looked through our lockers, they found that he was keeping a collection of pics of Hugits that he took and they just kinda noped out of there. And somehow 20 years later he is still alive and now working as a safety supervisor for a large trucking company. The sergeant says this must be some kind of workplace hazing that crossed the line into assault. The victim says he did it to himself, but it must be brainwashing. Nobody is that stupid. Sarge wants evidence for felony charges against the rest of HTE crew. Hey look, the victim collects pictures of turds. He brings the pictures to his goddamn locker at work so he can look at them on his break. Okay, this is the kind of guy who would purposely shoot a nail gun into his own boot. Pretty much. I think they were looking for drugs to be honest, but yeah. And he used to show us all those pictures. I was with him the day when he bought a new toilet so that he could take better pictures and so that they would lay long. And that was the last time I drove someone to a hardware store for like 10 years. Holy it. Pun intended. Congrats, you've made it to the end. You're a beast. Like and subscribe for more r/ask Reddit content. It's free, so why not just do it?